The moment my sister grabbed the microphone, I knew I had made a mistake coming. We were standing inside a luxury mansion surrounded by executives, investors, and politicians. It was my sister Victoria's engagement gala, and as always, she loved being the center of attention. Then she pointed directly at me. "And this is my little sister, Emma," she said with a smile. "The quiet one nobody really brags about." Laughter rippled through the room. Before I could react, my father stepped forward. "She works with numbers all day. Nothing nearly as impressive as Victoria's legal career." More laughter. My mother leaned closer and whispered, "Please don't start talking about work tonight. Let's keep the attention where it belongs." Where it belongs. I forced a smile while guests quickly lost interest in me. Just another reminder of the role my family had assigned me years ago. Then I noticed someone across the room still watching. My future brother-in-law's father. A billionaire known for building one of the largest business empires in the country. Unlike everyone else, he wasn't amused. His expression had completely changed. Then he looked directly at me and asked a question that made the entire ballroom fall silent. "Did you say her name is Emma Carter?" If you've ever been underestimated by your own family, leave a like below. And subscribe to the channel, because what happened next turned Victoria's perfect night upside down. For 32 years, my family had treated Victoria like she was destined for greatness. And maybe she was. She was a successful attorney, confident, charismatic, and always the first person anyone noticed when she entered a room. I was the opposite. I worked as a financial forensic analyst, investigating hidden fraud, money laundering schemes, and financial crimes most people never even knew existed. The work was confidential, which meant I rarely talked about it. Not that anyone ever asked. My parents loved introducing Victoria as their pride and joy. When people asked about me, the conversation usually ended with, "She works with numbers." Over time, I stopped correcting them. That night was supposed to be another example of that familiar pattern. Victoria shining. Me fading into the background. But the moment the billionaire repeated my name, something shifted. I saw confusion on my father's face. Concern on Victoria's. And genuine recognition in the billionaire's eyes. Then he took a step toward me and said words that made my heart stop. "I've been trying to find you for over a year. If you're enjoying the story, subscribe now and tell me in the comments, have you ever been underestimated by your own family?" The room went completely silent. Victoria forced a laugh and quickly stepped between us. "I'm sure there's some mistake," she said. "Emma just works in finance." But the billionaire didn't even look at her. His eyes stayed fixed on me. He explained that years earlier, an anonymous forensic report had exposed a massive healthcare fraud operation. Millions of dollars had been recovered, several executives had been indicted, and entire companies had been investigated because of that report. Then he said something that changed the atmosphere instantly. That report saved one of our investments from collapse. My parents stared at me as if they were seeing a stranger. Victoria's smile began to fade. For years, nobody had cared enough to ask what I actually did. Now dozens of guests were suddenly listening to every word. And Victoria hated it. She immediately interrupted and suggested everyone return to celebrating the engagement. But the damage was done. For the first time in my life, attention was moving away from her. And judging by the look in her eyes, she wasn't about to let that happen without a fight. Like the video if you've ever watched someone's mask start to crack. And subscribe, because Victoria's next move would surprise everyone. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I simply watched. Victoria spent the next hour trying to pull conversations away from me every time someone asked about my work. The harder she tried, the more obvious it became. For the first time, I noticed something else. The billionaire wasn't interested only in my past report. He kept asking precise questions about financial risk, hidden liabilities, and corporate fraud. Questions that sounded less like curiosity and more like a test. So I stopped worrying about Victoria. Instead, I listened. Because after years of investigating people, I had learned one rule. The person asking the questions usually knows more than everyone else in the room. And I was starting to suspect this night wasn't about my sister's engagement anymore. Enjoying the story? Subscribe and leave a like. The next conversation would change my future forever. Near the end of the evening, the billionaire finally asked me to join him in his private office. Victoria looked furious. Inside, he opened a folder and slid it across the desk. It contained details about a new intelligence division he wanted to build, one focused on detecting fraud before it could damage his companies. Then came the offer. Complete independence. My own team. A salary larger than anything I had ever imagined. While my family spent years pretending my career didn't matter, one of the most powerful businessmen in the country was offering to build an entire division around my expertise. But before I could answer, he revealed one final detail. Someone inside one of his companies was already trying to sabotage the project. And he wanted my help finding out who. Subscribe if you're enjoying the story. The next discovery would make this offer far more dangerous than it seemed. I thought the biggest challenge that night was deciding whether to accept the offer. I was wrong. When I left the office, I found my parents waiting for me. Suddenly they wanted to know everything about my career. Suddenly they were proud. Then Victoria arrived. Her smile looked forced. For years, none of them had cared enough to ask what I did. Now that a billionaire valued my work, their attitude had changed overnight. But what bothered me most was what Victoria said next. Emma, don't let this get to your head. Not congratulations. Not support. A warning. And in that moment, I realized the real problem wasn't the humiliation at the gala. It was that my family only respected success after someone powerful validated it. The question was whether they could admit that publicly. Like and subscribe, because the next conversation would expose years of truth in front of everyone. I looked at my father and asked a simple question. When was the last time you asked me what I actually do? He couldn't answer. Neither could my mother. The silence was painful. Then Victoria finally lowered her eyes. I thought your job was boring, she admitted. I never bothered to understand it. For the first time all night, nobody defended her. Nobody laughed. The billionaire then explained to everyone exactly what my report had accomplished years earlier and how many millions had been recovered because of it. The room that had ignored me hours before was now completely silent. Not because I had become someone new. Because the truth had finally become impossible to ignore. Like and subscribe if you've ever had to prove your value to people who should have seen it already. That night, I accepted the offer, but on my terms. Full independence, complete authority over the new intelligence division, and no interference from anyone. The billionaire agreed immediately. A few months later, my team uncovered the internal executive who had been trying to sabotage the project. He was quietly removed, and the division became one of the company's most successful investments. My parents eventually apologized. Not with excuses, but with honesty. They admitted they had spent years celebrating one daughter while barely trying to understand the other. Victoria apologized too. She confessed that she had always enjoyed being the one everyone admired and never realized how much she had contributed to making me feel invisible. We didn't become best friends overnight. But for the first time, we became honest. And that was enough. The greatest victory wasn't the salary, the title, or the recognition. It was realizing I had never been the lesser daughter. I had spent years believing I was unseen. The truth was much simpler. My value had always been there. They just never bothered to look. If you enjoyed this story, like and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, if the people closest to you underestimated your worth, would you try to prove them wrong, or simply let your success speak for itself? If this story hit you in any way, take a second to like the video so more people who've ever been overlooked can find it. Subscribe to the channel for more emotionally intense stories about quiet strength, hidden truth, and powerful comebacks. And comment below, would you prove your worth to your family, or would you let your success do all the talking instead?